What's up, guys? Remember how I was bearish on the market? Our puts ended up going 100%. Straight to the point, we made a lot of money trading to the downside. We played to the upside, the downside, left, right, sideways. We made money today. While the market was dropping very aggressively, we were short. As it started to bounce, we were long. It's very simple. It's very, very simple. I share the exact trades that I take, when I'm entering, when I'm exiting, and there's no gimmicks. You cannot fake the results. You can join. You'll see with evidence of timestamps. And it is what it is. You join, the proof is in the pudding. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what the next steps are. Obviously, we have Tesla earnings. Tesla just reported, and it looks like they are dropping a bit. So we're going to take a look at what Tesla and how Tesla is going to affect the overall market. We're going to also take a look at the large tech stocks as a whole. We're going to take a look at the VIX. And we're going to do a little recap of why I was so bearish specifically for today. And we're going to go over those reasons again. All right, so we're going to take a look at the crypto markets, large tech stocks, ETFs, all that good stuff. Let's get started with the video. First and foremost, I want to take a look at the VIX. We were looking at the VIX yesterday. I was explaining how $17 is a very, very major level of support on the VIX. 17 has been a monstrous level of support for months now, right? As we approach this level of support, what generally happens at a level of support? We bounce. That's exactly what ended up happening today. The VIX ended up shooting almost 20% intraday. And the reason why we look at the VIX is because the VIX has an inverse relationship to the market. If the VIX rises, the overall market is going to end up falling. As the VIX approached a very important, solid level of support and bounced, that's what ended up causing the weakness in the overall market. It was one of the factors. When you're deducing, when you are trying to look and analyze what is going on in the market, you have to look at multiple variables. You cannot just look at a chart of the S&P 500 and say, oh, wow, the S&P 500 should be bullish. Oh, it should be bearish. You're entering the arena with one weapon. You want to have armor. You want to have proper clothing. You want to have proper shoes. You want to have headgear, a helmet. When you are just entering with a sword, with nothing else, only I can do that. No, I'm just kidding. But regardless, you want to equip yourself with as much variables and knowledge as possible. The VIX is one such thing. Next, I really want to take a look at the junk TLT. We haven't looked at that in a very, very long time, and that also gives a very good understanding of what is going on in the market, okay? Let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so this is a chart of the junk bonds over the TLT, which is the 20-year bonds, which are the higher quality bonds. So when we're looking at this calculation here, what we're currently looking at is this blue line is the SPX. What I want to simply show you guys is when the junk TLT is showing extreme weakness, it leads to a bounce in the overall market time and time again. Okay? So what we can see here in the most recent example, the junk TLT here was trading outside of the lower bands here. As we know, that is extremely, right here, I can't really zoom in for some reason. It's not really working. But this is extreme overextension to the downside. When the junk TLT shows extreme overextension to the downside, that's a solid buy signal. Right now, we're not getting that overextension to the downside on the junk TLT. The lower level of the Bollinger Band is just vomiting lower. So there's a lot more room to go to the downside, according to the junk TLT. This is not a bullish sign for the overall market, in my opinion. What is bullish, though, is the fact that Trump and China is going to have a meeting next week where they're most likely going to reconcile what's going on, and all of this downward move, or even in the near future, when we do have a bit of a downward move, all of that is going to be a very, very solid buy opportunity. That's why I've been very, very bullish into any weakness that we see. And the junk TLT is showing that there's a bit more room to the downside. If the junk TLT gets a bit more room to the downside, if the VIX ends up bouncing off of support, the overall market should be falling. So let's see what ends up happening. But this is the junk TLT. Very, very important to monitor. So Tesla records revenue, record revenue tops forecast as tax credit. Expiry drives U.S. EV sales. So essentially, the shares of the Austin, Texas-based company fell less than 1%. In extended trading, the electric vehicle maker reported total revenue of $28.1 billion for the third quarter, ended September 30th, compared with analysts' average of $26.37 billion. So profit per share in the third quarter was 50 cents, below analysts' estimate of 55. Tesla reported gross margin of 18%, compared with estimates of 17.5. Robo-taxi service in Austin, Texas earlier this year, marking a strategic pivot, underpinning investor expectations that the company will transition from pure vehicle sales to focusing on self-driving. Awesome. While most of Tesla's revenue is still derived from vehicle sales, its $1.4 trillion reflects investors' bet on robotics and AI. So Tesla introduced a lower-cost standard variant of Model Y and Model 3 vehicles earlier this month as part of a very more accessible after the expiration of $7,500 U.S. tax credit for EV purchases. Wall Street expects Tesla's deliveries in 2025 to fall 8.5% due to the expiry of the tax credit. All right. And yeah, so basically right now, Tesla is flat. It didn't really beat earnings, didn't really do too much. But what I am really hoping to do is I want to go long on Tesla soon. I want Tesla to come back down to around 420 to 430 area. That'd be a solid place to go long. And then we will be looking for 500 in the next couple of months into next year. 500 is definitely on the table. And we just need a bit of a pullback first. So that's that for Tesla. Not looking terrible, right? But it's a bit flat. So that's a good sign for the overall market, you know. Apple is another stock that we have to monitor, and today obviously was a bit of a red day. It's all good, but essentially Apple held the prior breakout point at 255. It does look like there's a bit more room to 252 to 253, but so far Apple is trying to hold this level of support. We are bullish on Apple regardless. You know, there should be a continued move to the upside. We captured this whole move to the upside, and it worked out really well. Now we just need to see if the market can stabilize. That, I think, is going to be a theme for the coming days. Is the market going to be able to stabilize, not get chopped around? It's most likely going to chop around, maybe. What's going to happen? Apple is not really giving an amazing bullish scenario. It's not really giving an amazing bearish scenario. So we could have a bit of a choppy day in Apple and maybe even the rest of the stocks tomorrow. So we're going to have to see. But Apple holding 253 is still very, very bullish. Amazon is still, holding above 215, 216, which is good. It filled the gap to the downside, as we saw. We had that gap up, right? But then we wicked and filled the gap. Whereas Apple didn't fill the gap yet. Amazon is a bit weaker compared to Apple. But still, regardless, this is a falling wedge pattern. Falling wedges are extremely bullish patterns. And this is a solid pullback to a level of support. And Amazon is still in the clear for a big move to the upside, in my opinion. I would be surprised if Amazon really just capitulates and makes new lows. Because it's still holding above 214, 215. If it can do that, we end up seeing a break to the upside above 222. Above 223. Let's see how that plays out. Netflix is trading outside the lower bands. It reported earnings. We're going to have to see how Netflix does tomorrow. Are we still, starting to try to stabilize? What's going to end up happening? But overall, when a large tech stock like this is trading outside the lower bands this aggressively, it becomes a very good buying opportunity. If Netflix is going to end up bouncing, that is bullish for the market. But regardless, we ended up having a move to the downside due to earnings. So it might not be as easy and as clear. But currently, this is the bear flag, and the bear flag has broken down lower due to earnings so far on Netflix. So let's monitor if Netflix can hold definitely above 1100. If it can hold 1100, then this is a solid buy opportunity, in my opinion. We're going to have to see. I'm excited. I'm excited to see if we could get a nice dip buy opportunity on Netflix. Meta is really flat today. It did not do that much. It had a big wick to the downside, big wick to the upside. Closed right above 730, continuing to look solid above 720, 730, which is solid. Great. But regardless, this is still bullish in my opinion. It should be bouncing. We're consolidating near a level of support, similar to Microsoft. So Microsoft has also been consolidating close and near a level of support. We ended up having a bit of a bounce today, which is nice. So you see how Microsoft's pattern looks eerily similar to what Meta was doing. And Microsoft ended up ripping to the upside, whereas Meta hasn't yet really ripped to the upside, but it's doing its thing, right? So these patterns persist. They show themselves in the way that the market makers paint the picture of the candles across the board. Okay, so Meta and Microsoft look pretty similar. So Microsoft is bouncing a bit, held 515. Meta has more room to the upside as well. Tesla has a bit of support, didn't really do terrible on earnings. Apple is holding support. Amazon is holding support. Last but not least, let's go ahead and take a look at Google. And Google is also doing pretty decently. It's holding at the highs. And that's the gist of what's going on with the overall chips and everything as well. Like, nothing too dramatic happened today. We had a huge move to the downside, even on AMD. But on NVIDIA, right, we held 180. We had a bit of a drop down lower, as did all the stocks, but everything reclaimed. And now NVIDIA needs to continue to hold 178 to 180. AMD is continuing to hold above 230, technically, right? This is obviously not the most bullish setup. But overall, I mean, we're holding 225, 230 area. There's a bit more room to the upside on AMD. When we look at ARM is also looking like there's a bit more room to the upside. It's holding above support. I'm just spitballing here, showing as many as quickly as possible because the main moves have already occurred. The main levels of support that we saw a couple of days ago have already occurred. Now we're approaching levels of resistance, and if the overall momentum is going to continue, that's basically what is what we have to look at right now. And the S&P 500 held above the 6730 level of support. The NASDAQ held above the 25,000 level of support. These are very important levels of support that both of these large indices held very, very well. And I was bearish up here, right? We were bearish on the market up here. Sold. And now, as long as we could continue to hold these levels of support, I mean, you have to just look for good dip buying opportunities in stocks. On the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, you can't argue with the strength. You just go short at levels of resistance, and you go long at levels of support. You keep things very, very easy and simple, and you make money regardless. So, and then not to even mention, Bitcoin is still holding around this important level of support. This trend line is very, very important. So even if we were to drop down, as long as we're holding above 103 and 105 on Bitcoin, these are still really, really awesome buying opportunities in my opinion. So because Bitcoin is holding support, because the overall market is holding support, you could feel the bearish momentum. Obviously, it's very, very prevalent that there is bearish momentum. Seasonality wise, we've been looking that the last part of October tends to be bearish, but all of the dips end up being buying opportunities. So that's what we have to keep our eyes on. Every dip is a good buying opportunity. If we drop 4, 3, 5, 10%, you have to get into long-term calls, basically, according to seasonality. So that's what it is. It's just very simple. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys want access to my Discord server where all of us are sharing trades, ideas, and bouncing ideas off of each other, click the link in my bio or down below in the comment section. And I hope to see you guys there. I'll definitely see you guys tomorrow. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Have a good one.